and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. And welcome back, my friends, to Event Comics Month 6, Last Siege of the Forever Wars. Unfortunately, we must once again venture into that wretched hive of scum and villainy, that era of disrespect and poor coloring choices for the books of the line, with only a few glimmers of truly exceptional storytelling. The New 52. I know that the New 52 has its fans, and I respect those who truly enjoyed that era or got into comics from it. It's always important to make that clear that I don't hate the people who like it. But this is a review show full of opinions, and in my opinion, the New 52 was god-awful. I'll give it this, though. The New 52 did not actually have a lot of event comics in it, at least as I define them. Crossover storylines were more their thing, just a few books having their story contained within their respective titles, rather than tie-in issues to a miniseries. Forever Evil and Convergence were basically it. Convergence even being the one to end the New 52 branding, even if the universe that came from it kept going. You can also count Future's End in that, I suppose, but it's really hard to call a weekly series that really was disconnected from the main universe an event. Much like how I can't really describe Countdown as an event, though it would technically fall under my definition. But yeah, DC instead focused on crossover storylines, books that were all under a particular label crossing over with each other. Teen Titans and other teenager-based superhero books had The Culling. The Batman books had Death of the Family. Green Lantern books, Wrath of the First Lantern. And the Justice League books had Trinity War. Trinity War leads directly into Forever Evil, but we need to go back a bit even more to the very start of the New 52. Regardless of whether people liked the end product, there was a lot of resentment about the New 52 at the start, especially with it seemingly coming out of nowhere paired with a Flash event. But people begrudgingly gave it a chance. And something people noticed, and had some hope for, was a character who showed up in the background of every book of the New 52. Pandora, who also showed up at the end of Flashpoint. Pandora gave readers hope, appropriately enough. There seemed to be some sort of larger plan for this character if she was showing up everywhere. And with her first appearing in Flashpoint when the old universes ended, implied that she was some sort of in case of emergency, break glass kind of thing. Like, if DC needed to quickly reset the DC universe back, this new character would be instrumental in doing that. Or perhaps she was the true villain, the one responsible for the New 52 that everyone would have to team up to defeat. That we do this New 52 experiment thing for a while, but eventually have to take her on and either get things back to normal, or have a deeper story behind the reboot. And if that was ever the plan for her, boy, did it not last long, because answers about her came the following year, and it was, like, nothing. Pandora was just, like, the mythical Pandora, cursed to walk the earth forever for unleashing evil into the world, specifically the spirits of the seven deadly sins. She, the Phantom Stranger, and the Question, a mystical version invented for the New 52, were labeled the Trinity of Sin by a group of wizards and sorcerers, and over time, she made it her mission to destroy the sins, thus bringing us to Trinity War. Pandora, having managed to retrieve the Box of Legend, thinks it may be the key to finally destroying the sins. Problem is that everyone who touched it became corrupted temporarily, embodying greed, jealousy, aggression, you name it. However, it's revealed that the box isn't mystical at all. It's technology from another world, but not alien, rather other-dimensional. The box is a relic from Earth 3, aka the DC Universe's equivalent to the Mirror Universe from Star Trek. The good guys are bad guys, the bad guys are mostly dead, but those that remain are good guys. We've mentioned them a couple of times in past reviews, but this is the first story we've looked at where they're the actual villains of the tale. And upon the box opening, their version of the Justice League, known as the Crime Syndicate, is unleashed, swearing to take over the world. And that leads us into the event. Let's dig into Forever Evil and see how they tried to do this. Atop the fourth wall, where bad comics burn. Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. What's with these awkward subjects? What's all this art so rubbish? To anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn.
automatically a grouch. Linkara. He has his own spaceship, but he's always on his couch. Linkara. Ghosts, gods, a universe in flux. Linkara. This comic sucks. Linkara.
Scans are from a trade, so no deeper looking at the covers. Not that there's much to say about them anyway. They're overall pretty dull with just some group shots of people with nondescript backgrounds. We open with Lex Luthor in a helicopter with Thomas Cord, the father of Blue Beetle Ted Cord, who didn't exist until now in the New 52. I once saved a cat from a tree. That tree had a gun! My sister's cat had gotten itself stuck up an old white oak stretching over Elbow River. Lena's incessant pleading motivated me to climb to the rescue. When I reached out to help the animal, it did what most trapped animals do. It lashed out. It scratched me. So I threw it into the river. It didn't understand. I was only trying to save it. Yeah, well, most people understand that that might happen and will rescue it anyway because the cat doesn't understand. So all you're revealing is that you're a dumbass who is worse at that than, like, any normal person trying to do the same thing. Lex is trying to purchase Cord Industries from Thomas. And here's where we get the first of 3 minor continuity issues. So this takes place immediately after Trinity War. Except in Trinity War, Luthor is in prison. Sure, he was being told by his lawyers that they're working on getting him out, but then he fires all his lawyers because he's distracted by Superman stuff happening in that story. And even if he did get out, it feels like he'd need more time than this to start working on acquiring Cord Industries. Here he's just like, I've been cleared of any wrongdoings, and now I'm doing this on the same day, I guess.
Space is warped and time is bendable.
Thomas is refusing to sell Cord Industries, explaining that his grandfather built it, his mother ran it, and he intends for his son to take it over someday as well. Lex threatens him, describing in detail how his entire family will fall apart after an accident claims his life, and this just feels a little out of character for Lex. Not too much so, just that I feel Lex has always come across as someone more subtle than this. Sure, he'd say something like, accidents do happen, in regards to Thomas, his son, his wife, etc., but here he's like, you'll accidentally die, then I'll take your company anyway, make sure your son becomes a drug addict, have someone seduce your wife, and then leave her brokenhearted when your son overdoses, and then drive her to commit suicide as well. It's a level of sadism I don't expect from Lex, is what I'm saying. He's evil, but he's more of the, I'm giving you a fair chance because I'm just going to take it all anyway, because it's what I want kind of evil versus, let me go into excruciating detail how I will ruin your family. Not that any of this matters anyway, though. An EMP hits across the city and the helicopter loses power. They crash into LexCorp's roof, Lex getting thrown clear of it as every screen suddenly turns on, displaying the message, this world is ours. Man, online advertisers just stopped trying to be subtle, huh? Nightwing is taking the recurring villain Victor Zsasz back to Arkham. He's talking to Barbara Gordon on the comms about then recent events in the Bat books. We've all gone through too much, especially lately, to let something as erroneous as Joker's lies keep us away from Bruce. Well, I suppose I could just murder the Joker again. That worked out okay last time. We've been rebooted, Dick. I don't think that ever happened in this continuity. Right. Wow, it's really confusing when they leave some stories out and then leave some stories into continuity. Hope that doesn't become a problem later on in this story. Once he reaches Arkham, he spots a silhouetted woman break through the doors of the place and decides to go in after her, unable to hear Barbara anymore. Batgirl, if you can hear me, I've got major trouble at Arkham. This DoorDash driver is way too enthusiastic about their job. Before he can go inside, though, he's attacked and taken hostage by 2 of the crime syndicate. Back with Luthor, we don't know what happened to the helicopter pilot, but I presume they're dead. Thomas Cord, however, is hanging onto the back of the chopper and looks like Luthor might actually help him, if begrudgingly. But then he spots what he thinks is Superman flying right at them. Or rather, past them. The whoosh causing Thomas to fall to his death while Lex is knocked back. The figure breaks into LexCorp and busts into a vault containing kryptonite. Meanwhile, the Rogues, Flash's enemies, are attempting to break into Iron Heights Penitentiary to free the Trickster when a speedster zips past them and blasts their way through the prison wall. It's cray-cray time! Well, anyone who would be saying that out loud, you know is pure evil. The speedster kills a security guard and we cut to Belle Reve Prison in Louisiana, where Amanda Waller is interviewing Black Black Manta about recruiting him for the Suicide Squad. This is our next continuity head tilt. In the second to last issue of Trinity War, she was digging in the ruins of Argus headquarters looking for survivors. And there really is not that much time between then and this, unless somehow this is at least the next day. But nothing we see from this indicates any time has passed. Black Manta refuses to join since his only motivation is to murder Aquaman, and the prison is busted into by two more of the Syndicate. And finally, back to Luthor, who sees the Superman-esque figure crush the kryptonite into powder, vaporize it, and inhale the fumes, happily proclaiming that he's the strongest again and flying off. Luthor finally getting a good look at him, and the U on his chest. The man tells Grid, a robotic virus that took over Cyborg's robotic components at the end of Trinity War, to start looking for more kryptonite without telling the others. At Arkham, several of Batman's villains exposit that these new guys have broken up every super prison on Earth and are offering communication devices, invitations to join the secret society of supervillains. The villains head to Happy Harbor, Rhode Island, where the remains of the Justice League Watchtower have fallen. We get something very neat for this, a 4-page spread showing all the supervillains gathered in front of the crime syndicate. Oddly, it's referencing the scene in Crisis on Infinite Earths when all the heroes are brought to the Monitor's satellite. Not sure why we needed the reference, but it's pretty cool. Also, how the hell is Giganta in here with everyone? The Crime Syndicate reveals their sincerity about killing the League by tossing out various items from the League. Aquaman's trident, Wonder Woman's lasso, a piece of Superman's cape, all that. Grid sends a transmission of their speech to the world, the villains introducing themselves. Ultraman, Owlman, Superwoman, Power Ring, Deathstorm, Johnny Quick, and Atomica. They make it clear, the League is dead, they now own this planet. They came from another world, and when the people rebelled on that world, they destroyed it. If you pledge yourselves to the Syndicate, you'll be rewarded. You try to fight them, and you die like the minor villain the Monocle, who thinks these guys just are the League. To further prove their sincerity, they bring up Nightwing, and unmask him to the entire world as Dick Grayson. Well, actually, they revealed him as Richard Grayson. Apparently, DC really were starting to get annoyed by Dick Grayson's name. Yes, we all make the joke about his name, I do it too, but over the course of the next few years, they'd go as far as to try to rename him Rick Grayson, in a terrible storyline that nobody liked. And if you liked it, good on you, you're allowed to, but I know it was really overwhelmingly unpopular. They say they're gonna hunt down and kill everyone Dick Grayson cares about as an example to anyone else who would oppose them. They then say that the world wastes its time protecting the weak, so if you have superpowers, it's your right to exterminate the weak, and you should join them in ruling the world together. Eternus malum. Forever evil. We called that evil Latin on our world. Ultraman, being the opposite of Superman, is actually harmed by the sun, so after the speech is over, he flies up into the sky and moves the friggin' moon so that it's blocking the sun more. I've thought about that cat over the years, about whether or not I should have jumped in after it. That stupid cat. Caught up in a tree. I found out later that that cat was a professional mountain climber, so don't I look like the idiot. Issue 1 ends with Luthor proclaiming that this is a job for Superman. So where the hell is he? But yeah, that's your setup. The Crime Syndicate has supposedly killed the League and ordered the world's supervillains to go nuts. This led to Villain Month, where each of the regular DC titles got decimal issues that focused on a villain. We've actually covered a couple of these before. Batman the Dark Knight number 23.4 and Green Lantern number 23.1. Both of them were terrible. I know there were a few good ones in there, but I just think the numbering system was kind of goofy and unnecessary. We start issue 2 with Luthor going through LexCorp's sub-basements. He has no intention of surrendering the world to the Crime Syndicate, but is going to need resources and allies to do the job. He finds a security guard named Otis, no doubt a reference to Luthor's sidekick from the original Christopher Reeve's Superman, and we cut over to the Teen Titans. Robin says they're going to go to the Watchtower to try to rescue Nightwing, reasoning that they wouldn't reveal his identity to the world if they were just going to kill him. Plus, if there are any other superheroes out there, they're probably en route to the Watchtower to confront the Syndicate as well. Yeah, if they're stupid. Sure, they may want to try to take on the Syndicate, but they're not just going to try to go mano a mano against the people who killed the League. If they're smart, they'll gather help first. That being said, Robin also points out that in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter. If Dick Grayson's identity is revealed to the world, it's only a matter of time before people put together everyone else in the Bat family's identities too. That doesn't end up happening for the most part. It's probably explained in a tie-in, much like how last time you guys explained how some of my questions about the Registration Act were covered in tie-ins and lead-ins, but still. Grid explains to the Syndicate that moving the moon has caused earthquakes and tidal problems that are keeping half the military occupied while the other half is trying to deal with all the supervillains. In turn, the Syndicate are kind of arguing at the moment. Owlman saying they need to keep the world's infrastructure intact to work with rather than build from the ground up. But Johnny Quick just says they should destroy everything for funsies. He and Atomica head out, the two being in a relationship and Atomica herself having spent a ton of time in advance of the Syndicate pretending to be the Atom for the League. Powering is different from Green Lantern, both in personality and in how the ring works. The ring is more a parasitic life form feeding off of its host, who in this case is an abject coward who's terrified of everything. But the ring actually insults him and goads him into action. Ultraman goes to check on a prisoner they brought with them who's being overseen by the Outsider, the Earth 3 version of Alfred, believe it or not. It's a deep cut reference to when Alfred himself was a supervillain for a time called the Outsider. Although I think his fashion sense works a lot better here than back then. Anyway, they're keeping this prisoner alive because Ultraman fears that they'll need him again. Despite their claim to the people of Earth, they didn't actually destroy their own world. Someone else did, and Ultraman thinks it'll be coming for this world too, if they're not careful. Owlman begrudgingly agrees, but only if Dick Grayson can stay alive too. It seems he was fond of the one from their own world, and he's dead now. Superwoman speaks privately with Owlman, revealing to the audience that she's supposedly pregnant with his child, although she's supposed to be with Ultraman. Luthor and Otis, meanwhile, reach an area of the sub-basement containing Subject B0, a clone of Superman that was supposed to take 10 years to fully gestate. But they're only halfway through. Still, they're kind of in a rush, so he starts to revive it while the Teen Titans, along with some police, engage Johnny Quick and Atomica. And yeah, if you haven't picked up on it, this is the New 52 introducing their version of Bizarro. There's a scene later connecting the B0 to the name. Luthor tries to talk to it, instructing him that he is his creator and master, and to test this, to murder Otis. Bizarro doesn't seem to understand and only kills him when he threatens Luthor. Lex then goes into a cupboard and grabs a Superman suit out of it. Has he just had that stored in there for like 5 years? Why does he even need it? Johnny Quick uses his vibrational powers to trigger some sort of time travel thing in Kid Flash, sending him and the Teen Titans into the time stream for tie-in issues. Luthor, in the meantime, goes to another part of the sub-basement to retrieve his power armor, expositing that he only needed 2 more companies to complete its arsenal, including Cord Industries for a solar engine that they were using as a non-lethal light flash gun. Creature, you're putting that on inside out. So not only did you keep that musty costume around on a shelf for 5 years, the stitching doesn't actually have the S symbol printed on. There's actually a hole that it's patching. God, for someone rich, you really cheapened out, didn't you? Superman is gone. This is a job for Lex Luthor. I'm going to buy so many elections. We cut over to Star Labs, where Cyborg's dad is working with Thomas Morrow, aka T.O. Morrow, the supervillain mad scientist who created the Red Tornado. In the New 52, he's not exactly doing much other than helping Silas, and they're trying to set up defenses for the Red Room, which contains dangerous technology. Okay, but how do you distinguish that Red Room from any other Red Room when everything in the New 52 is so red? However, busting down their door is not a villain, but rather Batman and Catwoman, carrying Cyborg's body, ending issue 2 by saying the rest of the League didn't make it. Issue 3 opens with Batman and Catwoman expositing about what happened after the end of Trinity War. The 3 different Justice League teams were in no shape to combat the Syndicate after the box had caused them all to fight each other, plus Superman slowly dying of kryptonite poisoning, and Deathstorm used his powers to expose the Firestorm Matrix. The good news is that the League didn't actually die, they just somehow all got sucked into the Firestorm Matrix. Bad news is they have no idea what the hell happened to Firestorm. And it's easy to misplace him when you have a 2-page spread you need to turn on its side. I haven't seen one of those in a while. Surprising it to turn up in an event comic from the 2010s. Morrow says that if that many people were sucked into the Firestorm Matrix, it's gonna be unstable. If he hasn't exploded yet, he will soon. Batman, Catwoman, and what remains of Cyborg only made it out by them being clear of the blast and escaping into a sewer system to a League safe house. Dr. Stone, you saved your son's life. Can you do it again? See if you can beat your speedrunning record. Morrow thinks they can indeed save him, that the synthetic blood that didn't get ripped out with Grid is probably what's keeping him alive, but it's not going to last long. It's only now that Batman sees the transmission about Nightwing, telling Dr. Stone they need to leave if they can stabilize Cyborg. Catwoman doesn't think there's any point going after Nightwing. After they broadcast his identity? This Grayson person is probably already dead.
We don't know that.
Who is he?
Selena, half my mask is missing. You can clearly see my face. Are you not making the connection right now?
Honestly, I just thought you were doing a weird Two-Face thing. Yeah, I think this might have been a poor artistic choice for the book. Damaged the mask, certainly, but with that much of his face exposed, people should be able to recognize Bruce Wayne. Back over to Lex, he narrates about how he warned everyone that the over-reliance on Superman would make humans stagnate and be vulnerable, comparing it to some colorful flowers that served as a distraction for his mother, who had to deal with his abusive dad.
We stopped trying to solve our own problems and instead looked up into the sky, staring at those bright colors. That's why I'm so happy that the New 52 took all those away.
He needs Bizarro to lift up a satellite for him that he can connect to some secret LexCorp ones the League, and consequently the Syndicate, aren't aware of, but Bizarro only does so when Lex accepts a flower given to him. Once he connects it, he's able to locate Ultraman, who's currently in Kahndaq fighting Black Adam. So here's our final continuity issue I noticed. It's a minor one, and it is explained, it's just it creates some timeline wonkiness. One of the inciting incidents of Trinity War is Captain Marvel flying Black Adam's remains back to Kahndaq, his home country, since he crumbled into dust. But then he's immediately fine here. It's explained away in a Villains Month tie-in issue, though, that he got resurrected. But if you were going immediately from Trinity War to this, you have no idea how that happened. And it feels like they resurrect him super quickly, given I don't think Trinity War takes place over that much time. Anyway, Ultraman is able to withstand a direct lightning attack from Black Adam, then proceeds to break his jaw so he can't say Shazam again.
Shazam? How silly.
See, that's one of the reasons why I still call the guy Captain Marvel. It just sounds goofy otherwise. Lex notices Ultraman bleeding from the nose after the fight and that he's taking a path to avoid any direct sunlight. We cut over to Central City, where Deathstorm and Power Ring are confronting the Rogues over their failure to level the place, per their instructions. The thing about the Rogues is that they have a code of conduct. It's what allows them to fight the Flash without an escalation, since their opponent could vibrate them out of this universe if he really wanted to. As such, they refuse to destroy the city when it's full of people and, hospitals and schools and all. The Syndicate does not give a damn, and Power Ring, paranoid about a potential attack, fires on them. The Rogues hold them off for a second, but only a second, as Deathstorm proves his own power by altering Captain Cold's DNA. In the New 52, they got fused with their individual weapons, in this case his Cold Gun, and Deathstorm removes it from him, leaving him an ordinary human. Mirror Master tries to get the Rogues to safety, but Power Ring shatters the mirror mid-transport. None of them are killed, but Captain Cold gets flung out in Metropolis near Lex and Bizarro. And soon Black Manta and Black Adam. Yeah, Manta went and retrieved Adam. Seems with his whole Aquaman hate boner, he's pissed he didn't get to be the one to kill him, so he wants to join up with Lex to take down the Syndicate. Captain Cold joins in as well.
Hope is meaningless now. Hope won't save the world, but maybe together we can.
Okay, everybody hop onto Black Adam's body so we can ride it like a surfboard. On to issue 4. Batman takes Catwoman to the Batcave for supplies, blindfolding her because we're still pretending we can't tell whose face is under the ripped mask. Specifically, Bats has come for the contingencies he made to deal with the Justice League if they ever went bad. Though admittedly, I always felt the ones made in the original Tower of Babel story, where this idea came from, were a lot more imaginative. For instance, here we have the Kryptonite Ring. Except in Tower of Babel, Batman doesn't want to kill Superman. The idea is to take him down temporarily. So instead, he creates a synthetic red kryptonite that turns his skin transparent and overloads his power. And while I love the respect for Wonder Woman, how here it's like, ooh, she doesn't have a weakness he can exploit, in truth, Batman figured it out in Tower of Babel. Force her into an hallucination where she's endlessly battling, the idea being to trigger a heart attack in her. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. More importantly is that his contingency for Green Lantern is a Sinestro Core ring, hoping it'll be effective against Power Ring despite its low charge.
I recovered this after Sinestro's core attacked Earth.
When did that happen?
Oh, a few years ago before the reboot.
So that still happened, which included the teenage Blue Beetle and Peacemaker. But the other Blue Beetle, the one who owned his own company, he doesn't exist yet.
I know, right? Everything's so much simpler now.
Unfortunately, he doesn't really have anything for Superwoman or Atomica, though what's more is that Grid is observing them, having hacked into the cameras in the Batcave. Back over to Lex's impromptu Injustice Gang, Lex is reviving Black Adam while Captain Cold constructs a new Cold Gun for himself. They're both successful, though Adam's jaw is too damaged for him to speak very clearly. Over to the Syndicate, Ultraman rips out the kryptonite from Metallo's heart to fuel himself. Superwoman coming by to tell him that they need to go on the offensive against anyone opposing them, rather than worrying about the possibility that their opponent will follow them here. Superwoman also implies that her child is his and that they need to watch Owlman closely. She claims that Owlman talked to Dick Grayson, trying to convince him to join up with them and that they're plotting to challenge them. They order Power Ring to go hunting for the rogues, instructing Deathstorm to return to their lab and work on creating artificial kryptonite since Earth's supply is going to run pretty low soon. Power Ring, being a coward, begs Grid to send someone to help him in the job. Luthor's gang proceeds through the sewers to a storage facility, though he needs to take a moment to comfort Bizarro, who is apparently afraid of the dark.
When I was young, like you, I suppose, I wasn't afraid of the dark. But I was afraid of something. Cakes! I was afraid of them in great numbers, so I would steal as many as I could. As many as 4 10s. And that's terrible.
He recounts how, when he was 17, his sister grew ill and he thought he could save her, but he didn't try, too afraid of failure. He says his sister then died and he never let the fear of failure stop him again.
That's why I know that these NFTs I'm hanging on to will someday bear fruit.
This version of Bizarro doesn't really have the backwards speech thing, so it tells Luthor that it'll try. In any event, they've actually come to a Wayne Enterprises facility. And when they bust in there, they find Batman and Catwoman already there. Batman throws some smoke bombs trying to get a mother box to open a boom tube, but he doesn't actually know how to turn it on. Not that it matters anyway, because Power Ring arrives flanked by Giganta, Blockbuster, Copperhead, Shadow Thief, and Deathstroke. Given the overwhelming odds, Batman puts on the Sinestro Core ring. Unfortunately, it only has enough power to project a little yellow bat before Power Ring summons some green snakes to snatch the ring off his finger.
Damn you, Power Ring!
Damn me? No. Damn you!
And your lemonade!
Power Ring crushes the Sinestro ring? I'm not sure. I think his word balloon smashed through it or something. However, while Power Ring says that a yellow ring can't hurt him, who should happen to show up to try to test that theory but Sinestro, bringing us to issue 5. Sinestro chases after Power Ring in the sewers while Batman, Catwoman, and the Injustice Gang take on the remaining villains. And good on Bats for building his Wayne Enterprises facilities big enough for Giganta to crawl inside of, I guess. It's just like, you have all the supervillains of the DC universe for this, and yet you keep putting in the one who makes the least amount of sense to be in these environments. And as far as I know, she can still shrink down to normal size, so why do we keep seeing her like this? Anyway, Power Ring tries to fight back against Sinestro, goaded by the ring, but this is Sinestro, and he decides to end this by cutting off Power Ring's arm. The ring, recognizing that its host is no longer suited for it, flies off to find someone else. Power Ring, delighted that he can't hear the ring anymore, thanks Sinestro, who vaporizes him. As for the rest of the fight, Giganta gets knocked out a giant window, I guess. God, I really used the space is warped and time is bendable clip too early, didn't I? Shadow Thief is blasted apart. Luthor manages to convince Deathstroke that joining up with the Syndicate is just bad for business, since there will be no more calls for his mercenary skills. A conclusion that Slade used to be able to figure out on his own, but at some point DC decided to make him an idiot. And in turn, Deathstroke kills Copperhead while Bizarro knocks Blockbuster unconscious.
You're going to write me a big fat check if we get through this, Luthor. Come now, Slade. It's the 21st century. I'll Venmo you.
The crime syndicate is busted into the Batcave in search of the kryptonite ring, but of course Batman took it with him. Owlman is also there, wanting to learn more about this universe's version of Bruce Wayne, but more importantly, Grid reports to them about Power Ring's death, and that when the ring started searching for a new host, it let out a pulse of energy that could be detected across the multiverse, and something has appeared in the skies over Maine. Meanwhile, Batman's willing to work with the villains to take down the syndicate, but of course they're not playing for capture to put them in jail. Sinestro in particular coming to explain that he killed Power Ring. He got summoned here thanks to Batman using the yellow ring, investigating what happened to it. He's otherwise not interested in helping Earth out, but Luthor and Black Adam convince him that joining up would set an example of leadership that the Green Lanterns could use, especially in saving the Earth while Hal Jordan is off trying to lead the Corps himself. Batman tries to interject, saying they're gonna go rescue Nightwing and that he's in charge. And the villains give him this look.
Do you feel in charge?
And we end the issue with the Syndicate in Maine seeing what's in the sky, a red energy ribbon that indicates to Ultraman that the being that destroyed their world has found them. Well, either that or you're about to go into the Nexus to meet Captain Kirk. Alrighty, penultimate issue. I was gonna say heroes, but protagonists, are 3 miles out from the watchtower wreckage. They can't risk boom tubing any closer lest their sensors detect them. Luthor comments that there was no history of metahuman violence or alien incursions until all the superheroes showed up.
And then, when we needed you most, your league was infiltrated and manipulated into unleashing these malevolent doppelgangers from beyond. You failed to stop yourselves on every metaphorical and literal level. You're not my supervisor, Lex! Oh, wait, are you? I mean, if I'm not in charge, that means you're my boss. So, this might be my performance evaluation. I'm not getting a raise, am I? Don't think this is gonna earn any favor with me, Luthor.
That's the second time you said something like that to me. Why do you assume I'm trying to suck up to you?
Oh, because I'm awesome? I'm Batman! Everyone wants to earn my points! They're bat points!
Hoping that they can stop the being who destroyed their world from going deeper in, Ultraman orders that they find the power ring and destroy it, assuming it's acting as a beacon until it finds a host. What's more, he wants Deathstorm to try to heal the dimensional breach. Owlman, however, is called back by the Outsider, who reports that something has happened to Nightwing. The Injustice Gang reaches the watchtower, and it's mostly deserted, detecting only 2 of the Syndicate within the place. But given Power Ring is dead, they can account for everyone there save for an additional being that they haven't met yet. The gang splits up, Luthor, Bizarro, Batman, and Catwoman heading to find Nightwing, who is placed inside what Grid calls the Murder Machine. Patent pending. Grid and the Outsider know that they're being infiltrated as cameras go out, Owlman instructing over the comms for the Outsider to protect Nightwing. But the Outsider elects to deal with their extra prisoner, worried that if he gets loose, everyone will die. However, Black Manta has his own thoughts on the matter, stabbing the Outsider to death. He and Captain Cold have split off from the others, curious about the prisoner the Syndicate brought with them. Batman reaches Nightwing, but when he gets close, the doors to the room shut and a bomb countdown starts. Sinestro, meanwhile, detects the firestorm matrix below them, but they can't worry about that right away, since they also detect that the Syndicate is rapidly returning. And I mean rapidly. The ring says that, and then boom! Next page, the Syndicate are attacking them in a 2-page spread. While a fight scene ensues, we learn that the chamber Nightwing is in was designed to hold Doomsday, so they can't brute force their way out. Nightwing explains how the murder machine works. The bomb detonator is tied to his heart. The bomb will only disarm if his heart stops. I don't know, seems a little tame for something called the Murder Machine. Just kind of amounts to bomb with intricate wiring system. You call something a murder machine and you should have a little more to it, like an infomercial product trying to sell you on a better way of murdering things. Nightwing tries to convince Batman to work on escape, but he's not hearing it. Instead, Luthor intervenes, saying there's only one way out. He blasts Batman, Bizarro holds off Catwoman, and he puts his hand up to Nightwing's mouth, covering it and pressing down to kill him. Atomica and Johnny Quick stop their prisoner from getting the gag on his mouth removed. Quick prepares to kill Captain Cold, insulting his lame-ass freeze gun. It's not a freeze gun, Skidmark. It's a cold gun. If it was a freeze gun, then I'd be called Mr. Freeze. That's how branding works. No, he explains that his gun doesn't shoot ice, it eliminates movement altogether, stopping Atom's cold. He creates absolute zero. And he programmed his gun to be voice-activated as he uses it to freeze one of Johnny's legs, allowing Cold to kick it completely off. The tape gets removed from the prisoner, who yells out, Mazas, the reverse of Shazam, as Dick Grayson dies. While Batman attacks Luthor, who keeps saying he has this under control, the prisoner kills Johnny Quick and absorbs his powers into himself. We end the issue with the full reveal. I am going to kill every single one of you, and Alexander Luthor shall be the most powerful hero your world has ever seen. Just let me call him real quick and we'll get things going. In case you weren't aware, in classic stories involving the crime syndicate, their Earth did have a single superhero in it, Alexander Luthor. But apparently in this version, while he's proclaiming to be a hero, he's clearly got his own agenda. And apparently the power of Mirror Shazam. Go figure. Final issue time! Luthor uses a brief electrical shock to force Batman off of him, while Alexander, seeing that Captain Cold and Black Manta are otherwise just normal humans, shrugs them off and flies off to go confront the Syndicate. Lex explains that he needed to stop Nightwing's heart or else the murder machine would have detonated and killed them all. But he didn't suffocate him. He gave him a cardioplegia pill. I don't think the real thing comes in pill form, but cardioplegia's a real thing, a method of temporarily stopping the heart while open heart surgery is performed. Thus, Lex gives Dick a shot of adrenaline to restart his heart, and he's alive again. Feels kinda weird that Dick getting his heart stopped and then restarted is forming a weird link to Joker Last Laugh, where Dick killed the Joker before his heart got restarted. The door to the cell gets blasted off and Grid's head tossed inside. It seems over in the tie-ins, Cyborg got restored and he's here to help. He says they need to go down and rescue the League from the Firestorm Matrix.
Yes, you go rescue your friends who caused this mess, while we do the heavy lifting and take on the Syndicate. I'm glad we agree, Luthor!
I was being sarcastic. You all suck and you always have.
Still, Lex does wish Batman good luck with a handshake, though he used the opportunity to steal the kryptonite ring from presumably his hand? Anyway, Deathstorm and Ultraman discuss how they need to get Alexander under control, since he has the ability to channel the power of the Syndicate members he's killed. They can use Superwoman's lasso of submission to force him out of his empowered form, but she reveals that she's actually with Alexander, that her unborn child is actually his. Back to our actual heroes, Cyborg exposits about Firestorm containing the League inside his Matrix, the Martian Manhunter keeping telepathic contact with Wonder Woman love interest Steve Trevor. They think they can use the lasso of truth as an emotional tether to pull the heroes out of Firestorm, but they were going to use Steve Trevor for that, who's now unconscious. Love conquers all, unless you're taking a nap. While Luthor and Bizarro rejoin the others to watch the fight of Ultraman versus Alexander, Superwoman gets her lasso around Deathstorm, which causes him to obey her commands. She orders him to die for Alexander, and by doing so, he absorbs Deathstorm's power. Batman attempts to be the emotional tether for Wonder Woman, though Owlman comes in to confront Nightwing. Alexander finally notices the Injustice Gang and attacks, making short work of most of them. Bizarro defends Luthor, but is killed in the fight. Lex had clearly come to care about Bizarro, so he's pissed at what Alexander has done, and as such, they quickly come up with a plan. Sinestro can temporarily realign Black Adam's jaw so he can call down the thunder of Shazam. Lex had already acquired a special lightning rod from Batman, said lightning rod was part of Batman's contingency for the Flash, and they're going to use that to redirect the lightning to Alexander, hopefully turn him human long enough for Lex to deal with him. Owlman reveals to Dick that he's not there to help the Syndicate. He wants them to win now, since with Alfred dead, Dick is the closest thing he has to family anymore. The villains accomplish the plan, except the Shazam lightning isn't the same as Mazos lightning, so it does nothing to Alexander. He instead attacks Lex, recognizing him as his alternate universe counterpart. However, Lex realizes that Alexander sounds exactly like him, so he grabs the lightning rod and calls out Mazos, bringing the correct mystical lightning down and reverting him back to normal. Lex stabs him before he can do any more, proclaiming that Alexander may be stronger, but he's smarter. But then Ultraman throws a tree at him, so there's something to be said for stronger. Ultraman prepares to kill Lex, easily destroying the solar gun he had acquired from Wayne Enterprises, but Lex was one step ahead. Black Adam and Sinestro pushing the moon back into its correct orbit and bringing the sun down on Ultraman right as Batman succeeds in freeing the Justice League from Firestorm. Lex taunts Ultraman as he collapses, pointing out that his strength coming from a green rock or Alexander thinking all his powers made him strong. No, to Lex, his intellect makes him unmatched and the power is just a crutch. Ultraman begs him to kill him, but Lex actually says no. He wants Ultraman to be the weakest man on the planet in body and mind. Atomica comes crawling out of the wreckage and is not so fortunate, Lex smashing her with his foot. The League is free, but Superman was dying of kryptonite poisoning before this all happened, so someone needs to save him. And that person is Lex Luthor.
What happened? I just saved your life. And since I'm outside your network, your healthcare costs will bankrupt you. Finally, I have defeated you, Superman!
In the aftermath, Lex narrates that all the villains who helped save the world, and thus pending charges against them, would be dropped. Naturally, Sinestro and Black Adam just laugh that off and fly away. Lex suspected that Captain Cold would be back to his old ways soon. Black Manta stole a boat and told a random civilian to give the trident back to Aquaman. Catwoman is encouraged by Batman to turn over a new leaf, but she just wants to try for a deeper relationship with him, who refuses because of the risk to anyone's life being close to him, especially given what happened to Nightwing. Speaking of, Bats has a mission for Dick to undergo since his identity has been exposed and he can't really return to normal life.
Dick, your mission if you choose to accept it. is to destroy rock and roll.
While Lex signs a check to Deathstroke for his part, Ted Kord arrives at Lex's office. With his dad dead and him being in grad school, he doesn't think he can take over Kord Industries and is ready to sell the company to Lex. But Lex tells him to stick with it, that his dad wanted the company to go to him and that he's a genius too.
And Kord Industries is a family business, and family is important. Speaking of, have you met my new business partner, Dominic Toretto?
As the League works on rebuilding the Watchtower, we learn that Owlman is missing, Ultraman is in a cell continually sobbing, and Wonder Woman is trying to interrogate Superwoman about what the red tear in the sky was. But she's just delighted that her baby kicked. Lex starts work on creating a new Bizarro clone, but it'll take 5 years to get to where he was. He contacts his sister, narrating that he lied to Bizarro. He did try to cure his sister, but he failed, making her an invalid, but now he wants to grow and learn. And he's now learned, thanks to the Dick Grayson reveal, that Bruce Wayne is Batman. And so our comic ends with Superman talking to the other Leaguers about what he suspects is the deal with the Red Tear. He thinks that the one who destroyed the crime syndicate's world was Darkseid, but the final page reveals that it was the Anti-Monitor. And any excitement from that reveal is immediately sunk because I remember that after this, they did the whole "the Anti-Monitor is Mobius" bullcrap retcon. But fortunately, we don't have to talk about that. Instead, let's talk about how Forever Evil is actually pretty decent. I've got to admit, I wasn't particularly impressed with it when it originally came out. Not that I hated it, beyond what it did to Dick Grayson, just that I didn't vibe with it. More dark visuals and storytelling from the New 52, a focus on villains instead of heroes, the disappointment over learning that the Pandora teasing turned out to be nothing in regards to the old continuity. I just was not feeling it. 13 years later, I'm able to look at it on its own merits, and honestly, it's a pretty strong story. We get that sense of scope I'm always harping about in regards to event comics right from the first issue, as we see the Syndicate freeing all the supervillains from prison. Introductions are made to our principal cast, and the individual Injustice Gang members are given motivation and characterization that keeps each one interesting, while also not devolving into annoying, petty bickering that one would expect from a group of bad guys working together. It helps that the stakes are established enough for each one that they don't feel the need to indulge in that kind of obnoxious, "Grr, I'm gonna hurl insults to people I need to help save the world." They each know why they're here and what they need to do to finish the job, and they do it. Hell, the Syndicate members themselves each get their own bit of characterization throughout that ensures they're not all carbon copies of each other. Someone in the comments for the last episode mentioned that Villains vs. Villains is fun pretty much because they don't need to hold back, and they're kind of right. We're rooting for the Injustice Gang because they're not as bad as the Crime Syndicate, but they're not the good guys, so they don't have to act like good guys. For all of Jeff Johns' faults as a writer, the man knows how to weave a narrative together and make you care about characters you otherwise would not give a damn about. I do wonder if this would have been better if Batman hadn't been present at all, but it does serve the purpose of having someone rescue the League, since otherwise who the hell in the Injustice Gang was going to do that? So, what happened in the wake of this? Well, for Nightwing, his book was relaunched as Grayson, where he infiltrated an international spy agency called Spiral, spelled with S-P-Y, because poor literacy is actually kind of clever wordplay in this instance, who used mind control and brainwashing for ethically questionable activities. He'd eventually use their own technology to erase his secret identity from the world and become Nightwing again. And finally getting the damn blue outfit again as they move towards DC Rebirth. Lex would actually start reforming a bit as he wanted to prepare for the arrival of whatever being had destroyed Earth 3, requesting membership in the Justice League, which they granted, hoping to keep an eye on him. This would also last into DC Rebirth for a bit in a pretty damn good storyline. The Power Ring would end up with a traumatized woman named Jessica Cruz, who with the help of Hal Jordan learns to control it rather than the other way around. But eventually that ring is destroyed and she gets a legit Green Lantern ring. The stuff with the Anti-Monitor would be resolved in the Justice League storyline Darkseid War, which I've mentioned a few times before. Otherwise, Ultraman and Superwoman would also be present and die during Darkseid War fighting the Anti-Monitor. Her baby would be born, but taken by the villainess Grail to serve as the host for a resurrected Darkseid. Owlman would survive those events, but be killed by Dr. Manhattan as part of the lead-up to Doomsday Clock. And of course, the Crime Syndicate would all end up being reborn each time they rebooted the multiverse, because hey, evil mirror duplicates of your heroes is a good trope to have for superhero comics. Next time, we conclude Event Comics Month 6 with another multiversal adventure and the end of the Marvel Universe with Secret Wars 2015.
None of us want to admit it, but Superwoman didn't need to tell us what's coming. There's only one being in this universe that has the power to destroy a world. Of course. One Face.
Hello, my friends. Please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for notifications on new video releases. If you'd like to support future videos, you can check out my Patreon, buy merch from the Store Envy link in the description, or check out the t-shirts available from Fourth Wall. Thanks for watching.